Okay, so first, even before I say who I am, what do I do, where do I come from, stuff, and do an introduction. This like the meetups for me is part of a bigger project that I have. As a foreigner in Germany, I could find a job here, and I kind of settled here. So it's something. It's a thing of also giving back a little bit, which is pretty much everybody knows part of success is when you achieve something, give something back. So for me, it's really, I love to speak in public. It's something I have a great passion for, and it's something I want to keep doing, and maybe someday monetize it and speak like being paid to speak. That's my dream, my ultimate dream. So that's where my motivation comes from to be here and talk about these things. I was saying to some people before the event, but I'll say it again. I'll try to do this once a month, and I was saying when I say try, it looks like I want to do less than once a month, but it's right. It's actually the opposite. I do have a job. I work for DB Schenker. I do have a full-time job, and I travel a lot for this job. So it really depends when I'm in Hamburg to do it. So my desire was to do this, I don't know, once a week, or if I was getting paid even more than that. But right now, I'm gonna start doing it once a month, and always with a different theme. And obviously, at the end of each event, I'm open to any suggestions you want to give. Even if it's take those earbuds off, this is stupid, even if it's that. But yeah, let me present myself then. So the presentation is not really long. I didn't do anything like really like fancy or anything, because for me the most important part is the Q&A at the end, and the networking part where we can like exchange contacts and talk and chat to each other. For me, that's what adds more value. Which doesn't mean that I'll rush through the presentation, and which doesn't mean you can't ask questions during the presentation, okay? All right, so I'm a Brazilian national. For the past 4 years, 6 years, I lived in 4 different countries, and I got jobs in these 4 different countries. And since I was in Brazil, I used to coach people there on how to do their CVs, and it's incredible how people misjudge their CVs. My CV, I'm pretty sure is not perfect, but I would dare to say it's above average, because I looked at a lot of CVs, and you get to the first 3-4 lines and you just don't want to look at it anymore. So people, especially people that are just starting, they do really need help with their CV. So I started helping people, but I always did it for free. That's the difference now here in Germany. Now here in Germany, I'm establishing my business, which we are a coaching business. It's on the process of getting established, not just for CVs, but for job search in general. And then from there, let's see what happens, because most coaches I know start with one thing and then they end up doing a bunch of different things, which is fine if you can help people. Oh yeah, this is interesting too. I interviewed in 4 different languages. Only 3 were successful because my French is not good enough. But they said, "No, I want you to interview in French." I was like, "Okay." I interviewed in French. Was shit. It didn't work. I didn't get the job. The other 3 were fine. So, like I said, I'm setting up my coaching business. Oh, yeah, I'm writing a book also on job search, not just with my experiences, but with other people's experience, with statistics, with a bunch of different stuff. I gave myself 2020 to finish the book, and then once I finish the book, I'll see if I publish or I'll work it out. Because I don't, I'm working like step by step on this project. I don't want to do it like, okay, I finish in 6 months and then it's not a good book. So I prefer to give myself more time. As you guys can see up here, I am very active in social media, or at least I try. I'm not, does anybody here knows Gary Vee? Nobody. So Gary Vee is a crazy guy that he posts like 8-10 times a day on each platform. He's crazy. So I'm not that guy, but I try to be active, and I don't talk only about job search and not like just tips about job search. I try to give more tips about job search, but I talk about different stuff too. So yeah, feel free if you wanna follow or leave me a message or something like that. I'll be glad to reply to you. Oh yeah, this is also important. I have a podcast. Do any of you guys listen to podcasts? Everybody? Yeah. So I have a podcast with a friend of mine. Her name is Maria, and she's Colombian, and she's also a coach, but she's an intercultural coach. And then I met her. The podcast will be 1 year old now in March. Wow, didn't even realize that. So it was last time, you know. But yeah, so I have a podcast to talk about a bunch of different aspects of interculturalism and how is being a migrant, how is living in a city like Hamburg with a lot of internationals. We interviewed people. Malu speaks perfect German. I don't. It's not one of the three languages here. So she interviewed people in German. I interviewed people in Portuguese. We both interviewed people in Spanish. So it's quite diverse in all aspects, the podcast. And this year we are focusing a bit more on interviews. So we're planning to do an event here at the KLU, I think in a month's time. I'm still figuring out the dates with the university, where we're going to be doing a live interview with a professor here. I won't say who it is for now. But yeah, we're working up to get more listeners. So it's quite interesting. I love doing the podcast because, as you can see, I love talking, and Maria is quite a nice person and a friend of mine. So it's very nice when we are recording. Okay, so let's get to it. So we can talk about networking on LinkedIn before talking about networking itself, right? So networking, for me, we have 3 steps of networking, which are these 3. So first of all, for someone that never networked before, for someone that never networked before, it might sound or feel like kind of daunting for you to get to a place that you know nobody, even if it's a networking event, and step to someone you don't know and say, "Hello, my name is Vinny," and start talking to that person. Yeah, exactly. It kind of feels awkward at the beginning, right? I mean, I'm a complete extrovert, so I'm crazy. I just go to people and start talking to them, even if they don't want to. So, but I understand not everybody's like that. So that's why I put this first, because for you to break this barrier, it's better to go with people you already know, right? You're less scared. You're not scared. Am I saying the right thing? Am I saying the wrong thing? And one important aspect of this first step is that you make progress. You get small wins first. So you know when you put that goal to you, like I'm gonna finish a marathon, and then you go run, and after the 3-kilometer mark you're dying, and you have like the marathon 2 months away. Yeah. So if you feel like, okay, at first I'm gonna do 5 kilometers, then I'm gonna do 10 kilometers, then you build up and you build up those small wins until you get the confidence to do a bigger run. It's the same thing. So you break that barrier of your networking, and then you move on. When you move on, you most probably get some contacts from these people, because not obviously gonna have friends that maybe do the same job as you or are interested in the same area as you are, but most of the time you're gonna have a friend that is a dentist and you work in logistics. So, you know, it's kind of complicated. But in this example, dentists have a lot of patients, right? So maybe one patient that they're closer to is a logistician, is a manager. You never know. You never know. It's funny because there was one friend of mine that she told me she would come, and she's not here. I had an example about her, but that was kind of a good example. I met her completely randomly, like 3 years ago, if I'm not mistaken, and like 2 years later, she gave me a contact that's why I have the job I have today. And I mean, we kept in contact every 3, 4 months. So that's how important networking is. So yeah, so these people, they're going to give you some contacts. So that for me is the second layer of networking. You go to the people, the contacts you got from your closer friends, and you can reach out to them. And there's an important aspect that you're going to see that when I get to the LinkedIn part, I'm going to start repeating myself about networking because all of this applies to LinkedIn. So there's an interesting thing that happens when I meet you, you give me her name, and I go to her and say, sorry, what's your name?
Alex.
Alex. And you?
Hong Yan.
Hong Yan. Okay. So let's say you present me to you, yeah, exactly. You tell me, and then I go to her. Sorry, Hong Yan.
Hong Yan.
Ho Yan.
Lian. L.
Ho Yan.
Yeah.
Okay. It's a bit Chinese now. Sorry, I don't even know from Chinese.
Alright.
Yeah. So I go to her and I say, I forgot your name.
Alex.
Alex. I was like, Alex sent me your, gave me your contact. So I wanted to talk to you about a possible opportunity. So what that does in her mind is that she's bounded not just to my request, but to you too. Because maybe you will ask her, so this is an interesting thing, and I'm not basing this out of thin air. There's research on that. So if you bound that request to another person, they feel they have to answer that question. They have to answer that request. So this second layer is really, really powerful and effective. The third layer, I would say it's even more powerful, but you have to be more patient, because in this, pretty much every person you write to will answer you because of this thing that I just said. They are kind of bound to a second person. But on this, every 10 people you write, 9 will just ignore you. But the one that writes you, so I'm saying that about this because this is about reaching out to, like I put here, reaching out to managers and departments of companies who are interested. This is that event that you go to and you meet someone and then you talk to a person you've never seen before. That person, around a year ago, I went to one job messe here in Hamburg. So I'm working there in Hamburg, and I talked to a bunch of people, like maybe 15, 20. I got one reply. One. Yeah, but then that reply I got moved forward, and I could make more and more contacts. I didn't get a job at the end, but I could progress in that. And that is because that person that took interest in your profile, they are actually interested in your profile. They are not like, oh, okay, I'll talk to this guy and maybe something happens, And again, this happens the same thing on LinkedIn. Anything you guys want to add about that? Anything? I mean, we're going to do a Q&A at the end, but just feel free to ask anything or just observations or whatever. By the way, for that got here now, I'm using this because I don't have a microphone and I'm recording, so I can listen to you. I'm not talking to myself here. Yeah. So some good practice about networking that should be common sense, but common sense is not that common, right? Yeah, there's a mug with this. I got it from a mug that I saw. So make the conversation about the other person, not your need for a job or partnership in a business. If you're a manager, a lot of people, and this happens on LinkedIn, on Zing, on your email, on your Facebook, on wherever platform. People come to you and say, look, I need a job. I was like, what do I have to do with that? It's nothing to do with that. So when you want someone to engage with you, the first thing you do is this second point that I put here. Be curious about what they do, make the conversation about them, ask a lot of questions. Again, this is another thing that I know there's research done on it, that you ask questions to someone, they like you more They are more likely to reply to you. They are more likely to attend to the request you're asking. And again, this is quite clear. Everybody likes to talk about themselves, right? Everybody likes to talk about their job, about what they do. Well, it's kind of what I'm doing here, so I'm an example of that. Yeah, so like I said, don't ask for a job position, so show interest in what they do, okay? So this is also important because a lot of people miss that. Why do this? Because then you can decide you can actually, if you want to work for that company or for that person. You know, I was already in a situation where I really wanted to work for a certain company, but I didn't want to work for that person. Yeah, it happens. You know, and sometimes some people have the opposite. They have a really good manager, a really good person they want to work for, but the company doesn't give them what they need. So it really depends. So when you do this, you can decide for yourself, okay, I had an interesting conversation. It seems something good to do, so I'll move forward and I'll look for more opportunities in this company or with this person. Yeah, this I said it already. So you need to offer something to them. Well, because getting a job is not about what you need. It's what you can do for that company, what you can do for that department. And people miss that every day, all the time. Why? Because you like to talk about yourselves, right? But when you network, it's more important to just ask and listen, and engage. And if you have, there's the basics of any interaction. If you have something in common, you work with that. So there's some other aspects to that. This is also something that for me is very important. When we're looking for a job, we go and send CVs to everybody. I hired people before, not a lot, but I hired people before, and I mean, I need to get to know the person. I don't hire their CVs. I don't hire their profiles on social media. That talks to you, because then for you to get to the point where you get to an interview, you need to look at that. Well, most people look at that, not everybody, yeah. But at the end of the day, you need to get to know the person, you need to talk to the person, and make sure that that is the person that you want working for you, right? So this is this is fundamental. And I have in my mind, like, this is something, it's kind of the motto for me of my life, that people are everything. People say, oh no, but I like to read books, so I like to have me time. Again, I'm kind of crazy, but me time doesn't make any sense to me, because I like to be with people all the time. But I like to read. But for me, if I have to choose between having a conversation with a person and read a book, I prefer to have 100 out of 100 times I'm going to have a conversation with that person, even if the person is annoying. Yeah, because you always take something out of the conversation. And if the conversation is really painful and it's annoying, you're working outside of the box and you're getting something like getting your abilities to talk to people better. Yeah, I know I'm crazy, not all of you I agree with that, but that's how I work. So this is also something that people sometimes don't realize. The best networking you do is when the person you're talking to invites you to a follow-up conversation, not when you offer to go again to have a coffee, to have an extended conversation. So when you go to a networking event wanting a job and you talk to a manager, and at the end of the event or in that conversation they say, okay, do you wanna have a coffee at some day? Then you know I did good networking. I know something might come out of it. Yeah? Okay, so to LinkedIn. There's something about the number 3 that is magical, that everybody, like, if you go to 4, nobody listens to the 4th, so everything I try to do it in 3s. Okay, so I also put like 3 steps to apply what I just said on LinkedIn. So the first thing, reach out to your direct network. This is quite obvious. Go into your profile, click on your connections, put the first, and if you want a job in Hamburg, put Hamburg, and then you can find the people that are directly linked to. Again, coming back to the point of making having those small wins. Talk to people you already know, and you can pretty much write to them whatever you want. You don't need to be formal or be like, am I writing like grammatically correct sentences and blah blah blah. You can make mistakes because you can be vulnerable with these people. So to the ones you can't, they at least know, so they won't be surprised to get a message from you. That's another thing. Sometimes I get messages on LinkedIn or requests for to add me, to connect with me, and I'm like, who the hell are you? It's like, I don't know you. I don't know what you want. Like, I got people from all over the world. For those, those princes from Nigeria, they say, I need you to help me with some donation. Yeah, I got help with that. So it's kind of weird when you get a message from a person you don't know, right? So this is why I think it's important, the first connection there, because people, they will say, okay, I saw this person at least once, right? We work together, we study together. So it's easy to start by that. So yeah, I was just talking about that, right? Like it helps to break any barrier you have, to start writing people on LinkedIn. So they will be willing to help you without any further questions. That's another thing. I wrote once a message to a manager in Bayersdorf here in Hamburg, because I wanted to work for them, I had an interest in the company. And this guy came back to me replying, what is your interest, why do you want to work for Bayersdorf? What's your motivation? So I know, from that message I already knew I wanted to work for that guy. Because he questioned me back to understand my motivation, so he was interested in what do I have in my mind, and not on my CV. So I replied to him, and again, it didn't move forward a lot, but we kept in contact, me and him. We ended up connecting on LinkedIn, and we kept exchanging messages. So these people, you're not going to go through all those questions. They'll probably say, okay, I'll help you. I'll try to help you this and this and this way. So last year, it will give you some small wins that will push you to be better. I told you guys that I will keep repeating myself at some point, right? So yeah, I talked about that already. Okay, second step, reach out to common contacts or your secondary network, whatever you wanna call it. So obviously there are those people that your first connections just pointed out to you, like I said before, but there are also these people too. When you put your second, not your first, but your secondary network, that's how many people I could reach for in my network. And I'm not like some celebrity with 50,000 connections, I have, 700, 800, something like that. And this is, like I put here, this is way more than I can handle. This is way more, and remember what I said before. I know someone that knows that person. So what you can do there, please ask permission to your first connection. Don't go around and say, I have a connection with Jeff Bezos. He just told me to talk to you. Just make sure that your friend knows that you're sending that message. But most likely they will say, yeah, it's fine. Just go ahead and talk to them. And then, like I said before, you bound it to two people that requested and the other person that is friends or a connection with that person. Yeah, this is what I was saying right now. So they'll have more things in common with you than someone you met randomly at an event. Like I said, one thing they have in common is already one common connection. And most likely they're going to work for the same, because that's how LinkedIn works, right? You're not going to add people, okay, I'm going to add this guy, add this girl because she looks cute. And at least we hope that LinkedIn doesn't work like that, because I've seen a lot of complaints on LinkedIn on guys hitting on girls. It is not for that, people. Not for that, not that type of networking, okay? Please refrain from doing that. Okay, so the third step and last one is find positions or companies you want to work for and reach out to top management. That is what I did. That's what I spent most of my time doing when I was looking for a job. It sounds crazy, but I sent an email to the CEO of Bayersdorf here. He never replied, but I did it anyway. But I sent emails to CEOs of startups, and I got a lot of replies. Because people see CEO and they say, oh my God, can't send an email to that person. He or she is a CEO. You know, it doesn't really matter if it's maybe they're a CEO of a startup. They have like 2 people working for them. You don't know. Maybe they have 50,000 and still reply. So what I used to do, and it's something that talk to people and also work for them, is to do more targeted search. So like I was saying here, don't go around like searching for any director of any firm. What I would do would just filter. I'll put a video here which is pretty basic on what I was doing to find these people, but it's valid. Maybe it's a shortcut for you guys to get there. One important thing about this is that for me it's this. Networking is your superpower when you're looking for a job. It really is. Because anybody can send 100 CVs a day. Anybody. Someone that hates getting out of the apartment, someone that don't like that, completely introvert, don't talk to people. Anybody can do that. But not everybody can network. Not everybody can go to a person on LinkedIn and send a message to a person you don't know. So if you are capable of doing that, you are part of that 1%. So you have a big advantage with that person. Not with that person, but on your search, on your whole search. So it's not easy to reach out to people we don't know, but that is why you can build a better case to be hired. Yeah, what I just said, right? Is you put yourself on a position where you are doing more than other people. So why did I put best case scenario here? Because I went on my LinkedIn and I just clicked on jobs. Once I clicked on jobs, some suggestions popped up and I just cut and put it there, just as an example. This one, I actually applied for this position before, didn't get the job. But yeah, I did like 3 interviews. It was kind of crazy. The manager changed while I was doing the process, and the manager that got in didn't like me that much. So, go figure. So yeah, this is the best case scenario, where you find a job that you want on a company that you desire to work for, and you already have connections in that company. This is the best case scenario because then you can target your message to these people, and because you have these people on your network, they're already going to give you a lot of secondary high top management on that same company. This is a bit harder. I don't know this company. Currently I do this job, but in the European organization for Schenker, like I was saying, that's why it pops up here. I know it's really small. It's kind of the letters on my computer are really small, on my phone as well. So it fits with my profile, but I don't know this company. I don't know who they are, what they do. So that's why I made this video on what I think is the best way of getting to the top management of this company and saying, okay, I am interested in your company. I need to play on this right here. Yeah, so it's actually pretty basic stuff. So I clicked on jobs, clicked on that position. If you wanna read all this, go for it. I hardly read when I was looking for a job, to be honest. Then I clicked on the employees of this company. Obviously, I go to check if I have a connection. I don't have it. So I go to my secondary one, and I have 62, which is a lot. But I want a job in Germany. So now I have 24. Yeah, so this is one way. There was global sourcing manager, or that's something I also used a lot. You just go get the job description, the position, the name of the position, and the company, just type it there. And it's gonna tell you all the time, no, I couldn't find any results, blah, 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 blah. But if you click there, they do find some results. Yeah. And then again, I do the same thing, first, second, but this one I go up to third, because if maybe, I don't know, someone that I knew It's all, yeah, see, that's, for me, that's the end result. I found a director there. It doesn't matter if it's an excellence, operations excellence director, but he will know a lot of people on top management. So in Germany, and one thing that, come on man, yeah. Just make sure that they're still employed by that company, because when you search like that, if they work for the company 6 months, 10 years ago, they pop up in there, okay? So, at the end, there's this guy that is a director, specialist. So here's the thing. It's not about like prejudice with analysts and specialists. I was one at some point in my career. It's because they don't hire people. They don't hire people, and when you do this last layer of search of networking on LinkedIn, you want people who you can get an interview, directly an interview. There's one rule I always put to myself, and that was a hard one to learn. Is that if you can skip HR, skip it by just do everything you can to skip HR. Yeah, it is really like before I would get like contacts from HR and say, wow, I got a contact from HR, but what happens is they don't hire you. They don't actually know, unless they are specialized in that department, they don't actually know what you're going to be doing in details. Your manager will. So that's the person you want to reach out to. So it's okay to talk to HR. They do a lot of screening interviews, which is important for any company. But at the end of the day, the final decision is not theirs. So this makes you skip HR. There's one detail here that I was almost forgetting. As you can see here, there's only connect. There's not an option to send a message. I don't get money from them or anything, but when I had premium, because when I was looking for a job, I had premium. And I really, really, really recommend it, because then you can send messages to anybody. You're gonna see a message icon here. And that's what I kept doing, sending messages to people like this guy, like a director. I'm actually serious, I don't know this company, I don't know this guy. It's just a random search. Yeah? Okay, now I need to do it. Oh, no, I can do it here. Yeah. So just to recap, reach out to your direct network, reach out to contacts in your secondary network, and find positions or companies you want to work for, and reach out to top management. Yeah? Anything so far? No? Okay. Don't worry, this is the last one. I'm sorry. See, it's the last one. I don't want to bore anybody. And if you're bored, just get a beer. Yeah. Okay, so some tips when sending messages on LinkedIn. Again, common sense is not that common. So I received some messages on LinkedIn already, like, okay, I want to sell you transport service and blah blah blah. I was like, man, it's DB Schenker, it's a massive company. I'm not really like an executive here. I can't say, okay, I'm gonna sign a contract, a transportation contract for like a global contract. So this type of things. Okay, so first, demonstrate your interest in the company by stating at least one reason it is an interesting prospect for you. So I got that from the people that, like that guy advised of, that wrote me back saying, why do you want to work for this company? Why do you want to do this job? Because if you're a manager, that's what you want to know, right? You don't want to know, I have 3 masters and I speak 10 languages. Yeah, man, what you going to do for me? What are you going to do for my company? How are you going to generate value? You know, so think about writing at least one thing on your introduction, offering something or linking something you have with that position or with that company. So if you have connections in common, mention it. Again, for the 3rd time, that effect, when you bound 2 people, when you get 1 people requesting and another person, it's more likely for them to reply to you. So yeah, like I said, it's bound the person and an external factor, and they're more likely to reply to you. So make peace with non-answered messages. They will be the majority of it. Like I said, every 10 messages I send on LinkedIn, and this is actually really good, because every 10 messages I send, I got 1 reply. Every 50 CVs I sent, I got 49 rejections. So that's job search. That's something that everybody needs to understand. I had a friend that he was keeping track of his applications and how many was rejected, and I was like, man, why is you a masochist? Do you like to suffer? Why are you doing that? Because you apply and then you forget about it. And you do that because it's not your job to evaluate your CV once you send it. And nobody likes that person who's saying, I sent your CV, what do you think about it? What do you think about it? Is it good? Is it good? Is it good? Nobody likes that. Sorry, you're up front, man. I mean, that's you. So nobody likes that type of person. Give them time to have a look at your CV, and if they don't like it, the way I think, they're lost, right? If you think you can do the job, they're lost. So don't get too attached to how many rejections did I have? Is this am I being successful? No, you're being successful because you're doing your part. You're sending your CV. You're making sure that your CV is appealing. So that's what you should do. I'm getting into applications and CVs and stuff, and let's see. In other meetups, I'm going to talk about that too. So be very positive, and put how here. So write when you're rested, not stressed out, not in a hurry, not frustrated. So when you're looking for a job, you think you need to apply every day, all the time, and some people I'm very hyperactive guy. So if it was midnight and I was watching something on Netflix, I felt guilty. I should be applying, I should be sending CVs. If you're stressed out, if you just got rejected for a position you really, really want, and you go and send other CVs, you don't realize it. But if you read that CV in a moment that you're happy, you're gonna say, damn, I was really negative in this. You don't see it because you're with that mentality, right? So my advice, rest, don't worry about rushing and sending millions of CVs a day. There's a time when you can send 1 million of CVs a day, but not when you are stressed. I say millions here, 40, let's put it like that. Okay, separate application time from messaging time. I usually had 3 routines where one day I would message, one day I would send a bunch of CVs without thinking too much, and one day I would send targeted CVs. Yeah, so if you build a routine, if you message one person, send one CV, unless you're applying for a position that you already have a contact in that company or that department, then it's good to message at the same day. So writing clear sentences, this is something that it's also, I've seen it so many times. So writing clear sentences, do not use fancy words, especially if you're applying in a country that doesn't speak English as a first language. English is kind of my first language now because since I left Brazil more than 6 years ago, I never spoke Portuguese again. Not every day, not every week. So English is something I think in English. And my family is saying I'm losing my Portuguese, and I kind of believe it. So this is something that when we're building our CVs or an application, we want to show that we know stuff, right? We want to write big words and this and that. Well, guess what? If you're in Germany and you're applying in English and you write surreptitious in your CV, who in here knows what surreptitious is? Really? Nobody, right? Yeah, exactly. So that's the thing. They speak German as a first language, so you need to respect that. You need to be clear. Maybe it's your second language too. And I've seen that with a lot of native speakers, like English native speakers. They write very fancy words, think that they are on the top of the mountain. No, that's a big mistake. Okay, always include questions and pair up with an invitation to meet up to discuss them. I'm not saying you guys just stalk people on LinkedIn, but suggest that you could meet, that you are available to meet up and have a conversation about it. Okay, questions are important because it's the same principle. If you're talking to someone and you ask questions, they are more likely to reply to you. They are more likely to like you. It's the same thing on messaging. Okay, I put less but important because it's a philosophy that I use. For me, when you apply, and this is not even about networking, it's more a general rule if you're applying for a job. If you can go to the company and talk to someone, go to the company. If you don't have that possibility, you call them. If you don't have the possibility, then you go online and make contact online. Because the closer you are to the person, not necessarily the person that I'm going to make the decision, but the closer you are to the company or the department or any human being, is better than just being another document online. Yeah? Well, that was my bit of it. One thing that I like to make really clear, I don't know everything. I have my experiences, I have experiences of people I know, I talk with. I like to engage with people. So if you disagree, if you have been this talk was shit, just tell me, you know. And if you want to share your story, if you want to share other details, so I also learn. That's why I started doing these meetups. So I can learn and get to know more people. I'm addicted to meeting people. I'm addicted to meeting new people. I really am. I can't stand just like not getting to know new people at least once a week or once every 2 weeks. So that's why I do these meetups. Okay, up to you now.
I would have one question. How do you, for example, contact the person buyers? Like, what do you write? Like, for me, it's hard to write people. Like, I'm looking for working student internship now to do my master thesis.
Mm-hmm.
But it's always like I have interest in a company, but I never know like how to formulate it that I get a reply. I overthink it, I think.
Yeah. So like I was talking before. I think it's very important that you, especially if you're writing to top management, it's very important that you tell them what is your motivation, why you're writing them. You know, it's not like I have 10 degrees, I speak that many languages, you know, not talk about yourself. Of course, you're going to have to present yourself, so you do like a basic presentation, then you follow up with, I'm very interested in your company because I think it's a company that does this and this and that, blah, 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 and maybe I would like the opportunity to discuss opportunities in the company. One thing I think it's very complicated to do is things that I didn't like to read in the emails and messages I got is people saying, I'm perfect for this job and I would read it because of this and this and this and I would like to be hired. I was like, what the hell are you, man? You're a text on my screen. That's what you are. Like it is, you know. So if you make yourself available to have a chat and you say why, what's your motivation? That's what these people live for. Well, they live for making money, but you know, they live for in the recruitment process. That's what they want to know. I was like, can I work with this person? Can this person do the job? And like, what is their motivation? Because you could be very, very skilled and you would be a genius in the job, but you're an asshole. So it doesn't really matter. If I can't work with you, it's not going to work, you know? So just think about the value you can add to them, and again, make it about them. Make it always about them. Yeah? And next question. Yeah.
Regarding the motivation, for example, some people might have like interest in like, I don't know, aircraft, so they want to work in aviation like industry, but for example, for me, I don't have like particular interest to anything. Maybe I like this company because it's an international company. Maybe they working language could be English, but I don't know about the motivation. So do I have to make up a
But
story?
when you talk about motivation, is your motivation to do something, or the motivation to work for that specific company?
Yes, the second one.
Okay, second one. Yeah, you said yes or no.
Sometimes.
I think I understand your question. So that's an internal thing. What you're telling me, it's an internal thing, you know? Because I knew I wanted to work for Biostov because she worked for Biostov and other people I knew worked for Biostov and they told me it was a very good work environment. And believe me, I worked in operations for 8, 9 years and I never had a good work environment. Operations is just tough. It's tough, you know. So what I was looking for was a good work environment, and I had feedback from the people there. So when that manager asked me, I had off the top of my mind what I wanted, what was my motivation to work for them. So that's what I'm saying. Like that's an internal thing. You would have to find in yourself like why do I want to work for this company or this person? Why do I want to do this job? Because if you go into a conversation like okay, I want to be I don't know a lawyer, but I don't want to have clients. So you need to find something like why are you motivated to do that before you write people, you know. So it's in looking for jobs because they don't speak you don't need to speak German. I mean I can talk for myself because my German is not really good, you know. It's actually Fußball. Yeah, that's right. But so that's not a motivation. That's not a motivation. That's a constraint. You know, and it's something that a lot of people have in Hamburg. Hamburg's a very internationalized city. So the motivation was, for example, the job I have now. The motivation for me was the amount of freedom I would have at this job. You know, so it's like I worked for Schenker before. I knew it was a good company, but I worked in operations, so good company, that environment. So I knew I was going into something different. And the way the job was described to me, I would have a lot of freedom, you know, to apply what I know. So that was my motivation.
But isn't it too generic? So like, freedom and a good working atmosphere and something else. Like, if I would be a manager, like in this place,
Yeah.
I would expect that every second applicant or like in contact will write the same, like a good atmosphere, I've heard a lot, good stuff and so on and so forth. So what's the real internal kick for them? Because I would expect something more specific from me to give a contact person like a feeling that I have a value for him. Because what's the real kick? What was the real kick for you?
In this, you mean in this job? What made me like?
Valuable for him, like an asset.
So I knew I could do the job
Mm-hmm.
because the way I read the description of the job, and most importantly, I skipped HR. Yeah, I never talked to HR. I got a contact from a person I knew. They gave me a contact, and I did 2 more interviews, and I never saw the face of one single person in HR until they gave me the contract. I was like, now it's fine. I just need to sign it.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's fine. You know, so that's an important thing about my specific case. But I understand what you're saying. Like for a hiring manager, of course he or she wants to know. Sorry about that. They want to know if you can do the job. So of course they want to look for skills. They want to look for other stuff. But that's the thing, skill, and that's one thing I have very clear in my mind. We have more than 100 students that graduate in this university. And then I have one position in my company. All the 100 students, by their CVs, they can do the job because they all graduated from the same course, right? But until I meet someone, and that's more emotional intelligence, until I meet someone and someone talks to me like that, or talks to me like that, and say, yeah, I think I can do it. No, wait a minute. You're going to have to talk to people. You're going to have to be in a room, like, you know, talk to people, interact with people, change their minds. And they are like, I'm very introverted. That's not going to work. You know, that's more objective, but that's not motivation. That's more objective. The motivation is like, for me, it wasn't generic because of my past experiences. So if I was looking for something really specific, so I'll give you something else. The excellence part. I always worked in operations and never with continuous improvement, with business excellence. And once I stepped into excellence, I was like, I want to stay here. I want to work with this thing. Because part of working in operations is knowing part of operations excellence is what's like I do right now. So I knew what I was getting into. I knew I could do the job. I only needed motivation. And my motivation was quite clearly and blunt and honestly not to have an asshole boss. And I got it right because my boss is amazing. And I never said that in my whole career. This guy is good.
But what did you tell him then? Like when you asked him about your graduation?
About what?
What did you tell your manager like when you had the interview? Like how did you convince him that he takes you?
Oh, I I did a lot of stuff to convince. Oh, it was a 2-hour conversation. No, but the important thing about this job is that what I'm doing here, I do at my job. I go to some sites of Chamber and I talk to people and try to change the culture of the, well, not necessarily the culture, but the reality, the way they think, the environment of the place. So for me it was a jump, and I actually asked him, this was fun, this is a funny story. Yeah.
But it's quite hard to bring over this in 2 sentences over the link things. Basically, like, I like operations. I truly like it.
Yeah.
But how to put it in a way that he understands that I like it. In a way I like it.
Everybody that applies for a job in operations, if I'm the manager, I'm gonna assume they like operations.
Mm-hmm.
Even if I know it's not true, I'm gonna assume that they like operations. You know? The thing is, the different message for me, and this only came with practice. I mean, seriously, you're talking with a guy that's at some point in an interview when I was really, really young, I quoted Donald Duck on an interview. Not kidding. Not kidding. I came from that to be as confident to stand here and tell you guys that that's what I think people should do. So, like I was saying, if you make them understand what can you do for the company, whatever that is. For example, in operations, I'll give you like a more specific example. If you're running a warehouse, okay, you can say, I ran a warehouse before with 100 people, blah, 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 blah. Or in my case, in this position, what would I say? I'm not an engineer. It's an engineer's job, and I'm not an engineer, you know? But that's the thing, they weren't looking for engineers. Same thing on the warehouse. Maybe they're not looking for an experienced guy. They're looking for someone that is motivated, that have energy, you know, to do this. And then to translate into that, first thing for you to translate this attitude to messages, practice. Practice. It's a stupid advice, but it's true. Anything is like practice until you hone that thing into something that is it's a good message and it's appealing for the hiring manager. So let me think about something about if I wanted a job in operations. I would probably talk about energy. I would probably talk about resilience, not necessarily just stress. Oh yeah, you can see my experience in operations was like, but and I would translate that into a message like, okay, if when is our peak time? I would like to go to the operation to get to know the operation. But that one is magic. It's magic. When you say, can I visit the company to have a look as a candidate, not hired. Managers, they're just like, I want this guy, you know. So that is something I did before. I think I visited one company because a lot of people still like don't believe in that. But yeah, I mean, is that clear? Like the part where you kind of take your own skills, but you make it sound, and I mean, you're not lying. You're just translating into how you generate value for them.
No, because I was generally assuming that the answer will be the same. It was like just, is it something what the other people would do, or if I were you, would I do the same, and so on? So yes.
That you said something there that for me is key. If you do the same thing that everybody else does, you are the same than everybody else. Yeah. If you do something different, like sending a message to a top manager in that chain of command that will hire you, maybe there's one or two. And then you're already, I was like, okay. Because then that manager, if he gets interested, he will send your CV to HR. Meanwhile, HR is getting 100 CVs a day. Like, I was like, this came from, which one do you think they're gonna look first? You know what I mean? So, it's doing this counterintuitive things is what gets you like in front of everybody else. You know? Okay, you guys are too quiet again.
Yeah. How do you deal with the top tier companies like Apple, Amazon, Google? example, if I want to apply, they get like tens of thousands of applicants per day. So what can I offer to them? What's my motivation? To work in a big company which pays a lot?
I want money.
There was a case of one guy, you may remember some, that he sent a CV to, I don't remember if it was Apple or Google, but one of these top tech companies. And he sent some CVs and he never got any replies. So at some point he found out the name of the manager. He got 3 pizza boxes, sent it to the office. When
The
they
CV
opened
inside.
the lid, the CV was on the lid. So
Great.
it sounds ridiculous, but somebody saw his CV. You know, and that's why in the US, all kind of crazy shit happens in the US, right? But I mean, it's just one example. It's a bit like over the top, this thing with the pizza. But what you need to think about is what is everybody else that applies for this job doing? They are sending CVs online, or everybody is writing on a portal or something like that. One thing I can guarantee to you, 1% does that. 1% networks actually goes and talks to a person. So that's why it's so effective. That's why it works. You know, so I'm not sure about tech companies, because I know tech companies is like it's really hard to get in anywhere in the world. I know, but just try to find out what is mainstream. Then don't do that.
Okay.
Then just don't do that. You know. Another example, I think it's interesting to say here too. There was this guy, I think he was also in the US, that he wanted a job in a top tech company. And instead of sending CVs, because I think he might get tired of sending CVs, he started recording videos on YouTube, on Instagram, and putting hashtags with the top managers, or finding the profile and putting them on these videos, you know, that he got hired. Sounds absurd, but it's the attention. You know, it's like, okay, I have 200 CVs here. You know, like until they find, okay, this is like Mike and he's amazing. If you have a video, if you have like something different, people go straight to you. They don't look through 200 CVs to find yours. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is that.